Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're zeroing in on the Q4 FY25 financial results of Radico Khaitan Ltd.
Right. A pretty major player in the Indian spirits industry.
Exactly. We've got their official earnings presentation, a note to the stock exchanges about the results being approved, and also confirmation of a clean audit report.
Yeah, quite a bit to work with. It gives us a good view of their performance.
So our mission really is to, sift through these numbers and understand what's actually happening with the company.
Precisely. We're looking at the figures for Q4, the full fiscal year 25, but also trying to get behind those numbers, the drivers, the strategy, where they might be heading.
Okay, let's dive right in then. The overall financial picture sounds like they ended the year on a high note.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Q4 was actually their highest ever quarter for sales volume.
Highest ever. Wow.
Yeah. And revenue from operations, the net figure climbed pretty significantly, up 20.9% compared to last year's Q4, hit 1,304.1 crore.
That's a solid jump. Suggests people are buying their stuff, right?
It certainly does. And what's maybe even more interesting is the profitability side.
Okay, tell me about that. Gross profit.
Yeah, so gross profit, basically revenue minus the direct costs of making the spirits that jumped even more. Up 28.3%, reaching 566.9 crore.
Okay.
And crucially, their gross profit margin improved. Went from 41% in Q4 last year to 43.5% this time.
Ah, so they're keeping more of each rupee earned. Why the improvement?
Well, two main things they point to: this strategy of premiumization, selling more higher-priced products, which we'll definitely talk more about, and also relatively stable costs for the raw materials.
Right, premiumization. We hear that a lot. So selling more of the fancy stuff, basically.
That's the core idea, yeah. And it seems to be working for their bottom line. We see it in the EBITDA, too.
EBITDA, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, amortization, key profit measure.
Exactly. That grew by a hefty 38.9% to 174.5 crore. And again, the margin improved, hitting 13.4%, up from 11.6%.
So better operational profitability, too.
Definitely. And then total comprehensive income, which is a sort of broader profit measure that surged nearly 50%, up 49.6% to 88.4 crore.
Wow. Okay, so Q4 was strong across the board. What about the whole year, FY25?
Even stronger, actually. For the full fiscal year, Radico Khaitan hit its best ever annual revenue and profitability.
Best ever.
Yep. Revenue from operations net hit 4,851.2 crore. That's up 17.8% for the year.
Okay.
EBITDA for the year, 668.4 crore, up nearly 32%. And total comprehensive income, 341.2 crore, up almost 33%.
Those are really impressive full-year numbers, and shareholders might see a bit of that success.
Looks like it. The board's recommending a dividend of 200%. That works out to 4.0 per share.
Which is up from last year.
Yeah, quite a bit. It was 150%, or 3.0 per share for FY24.
So a nice bump for investors, assuming it gets approved.
Right. It needs shareholder approval at the AGM, which is scheduled for August 8th, 2025.
Good to know. And there's some dates around eligibility, too.
Yes. The book closure period that determines who gets the dividend is July 25th to August 8th. Basically, you need to be on the register by July 24th.
Got it. Okay, let's shift focus a bit. Let's talk actual cases sold. Volume. That's always key in this industry.
Absolutely crucial.
Yeah.
So in Q4 FY25, their total IMFL, that's Indian-made foreign liquor volume, shot up 27.9%. They sold 9.15 million cases.
Which ties back to that highest ever quarterly volume you mentioned earlier.
Exactly. That's the number.
Now, what about this premiumization trend in terms of volume? How did the higher-end brands do?
Okay, so the prestige and above category, as they call it, saw volume grow by 16.8%. That's 3.40 million cases.
Still good growth, but less than the overall volume growth.
Right, but here's the kicker. That prestige and above category now makes up 39.1% of their total IMFL volume.
Almost 40%.
Yeah. And in terms of sales value, it's even more dominant. Net sales for this category were 614.8 crore, up 22.1%.
Okay.
And that represents 63.4%, nearly two-thirds of the total IMFL sales value.
Wow. So fewer cases, but bringing in most of the money. That really shows the impact of premiumization.
Absolutely. That's the strategy playing out right there in the numbers.
Now, I noticed a huge jump, like massive in the regular and others category volume. Up nearly 80%. What happened there?
Yeah, that 78.5% jump to 5.29 million cases is pretty eye-catching. There are a couple reasons.
Okay.
One is just a lower base effect from the previous year. But they also mention a normalization of some industry issues in certain states.
Like things getting back to normal after disruptions.
Sort of, yeah. And specifically, they mention a change in their route to market in Andhra Pradesh.
Route to market, how they get the bottles onto the shelves.
Exactly. Changes there can sometimes unlock quite a bit of volume if distribution improves. So it's a mix of factors driving that regular segment surge.
Interesting. And for the full year, how did the volume stack up?
For all of FY25, total IMFL volume grew 9.2% to 31.36 million cases.
Okay.
And within that, the prestige and above volumes were up 15.5%, reaching 13.0000 million cases for the year.
So still strong double-digit growth for the premium stuff over the full year. Consistent picture.
Very consistent. The premium segment is clearly the engine here.
Okay, financials and volumes are clear. Let's get into the brands themselves. What are they doing? Any new launches? Any specific highlights?
Well, they're definitely highlighting the long-term success of building these higher-end brands. The report mentions a 13% CAGR.
Compound annual growth rate, average yearly growth.
Right, for the prestige and above category since fiscal 2019. Over that whole period, the volume in this category has grown over 212%.
That's some serious growth over, what, 6 years?
It really is, and they're keeping the pipeline full.
Yeah.
Just in FY25, they launched Rampur, Indian Single Malt Barrel Blush, Jugalabandi, #5 and #6.
Fancy names.
And an Ankahi Saffron Spiced Liqueur. And they're not stopping.
Oh, what's next?
Well, they just relaunched their 8 p.m. Premium Black Whiskey in Q1 of this current fiscal year, FY26, with a new look. And they're planning 2 new luxury brands and also aiming to enter the super premium whiskey segment, all the first half of this fiscal year.
Luxury and super premium, so really pushing further up market.
Seems like it. Covering more bases within that higher value space.
What about their established big sellers, like Magic Moments?
Still dominant in vodka.
Okay.
They say it has a 60% market share. Crossed 7 million cases in sales in FY25.
Wow, 7 million cases just for the vodka.
Yeah, and they're keeping it fresh. Launched a new pink variant, Magic Moments Remix, pink vodka, and also a pocket pack format.
Pocket packs seem popular.
They do. And they did this partnership with Saragama for a music series, the Magic Moments Music Studio. Trying to connect culturally, you know.
Smart branding. And their whiskies. Royal Ranthambore.
Big move there was signing up Saif Ali Khan as brand ambassador. That gets attention.
Definitely a recognizable face.
And they've expanded distribution now in 22 states, plus the Canteen Stores Department, CSD. And it's getting awards, too. Monday Selections International High Quality Trophy, 3 years running.
Consistency, again, suggests the quality is holding up.
It does. And their single malt, Rampur, seems to be doing well internationally.
How well?
Available in about 50 countries now and 35 travel retail spots, like airports. The double cask and Asava expressions have picked up quite a few international awards, too.
Good to see an Indian single malt getting that global recognition.
Absolutely. Then there's Jaisalmer Gin, the Goldcraft Gin with saffron and 18 botanicals. That's in 7 states now, also winning international awards.
Gin's a competitive space.
It is. They also have Sangam World Malt Whiskey, blending malts from Europe and the New World. That's in about 40 countries and 10 Indian states, also award-winning.
Okay.
And Spirit of Victory, 1999, pure malt whiskey, priced fairly premium, 4,200 to 5,000 front. Available in 9 states.
So a pretty wide portfolio across different spirits.
Yeah, diverse and decorated, you could say.
We can't forget brandy, right? Big in India.
Yeah, definitely not. Morpheus Super Premium Brandy, they say, holds over 60% market share in its category. Sold 1.2 million cases in FY25.
Another market leader for them.
And guess what? Also got that international high-quality trophy for the 3rd year.
There's a pattern here.
Seems so. And After Dark Blue Whiskey also did well. 1.9 million cases in FY25, and also launched one of those pocket packs.
Okay, so strong brands, good market share in key segments, lots of awards. How are they actually, pushing these brands? Marketing and distribution strategy.
Well, they talk about prudent marketing investments. Not going crazy, but consistent support for existing and new brands.
What does that mean in numbers?
Their ANSP spend advertising and sales promotion was 7.6% of IMFL sales in Q4. They expect to keep that spend between 6% and 8% of IMFL revenues going forward.
Which seems a reasonable range.
Yeah. And distribution-wise, the big focus is expanding reach, especially for the premium and luxury stuff, targeting high-end clubs, hotels, fancy restaurants.
Makes sense. Go where the target audience is.
Exactly. They're also doing strategic tie-ups and events. They golf, polo, fashion shows, music events, linking with other luxury brands, trying to build that aspirational image.
Like getting placements on the Palace on Wheels train or at the Oxford Golf Club, which they mentioned.
Precisely. It's about visibility in the right places.
And digital. Can't ignore online these days.
No way. They highlight a massive digital footprint across YouTube, Meta, Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, covering 9 key brands.
What kind of numbers are we talking?
For FY25, 519 million reach, 792 million impressions, 229 million engagements, and they picked up 2 million followers. Pretty substantial.
Those are big numbers. Any specific campaigns mentioned?
Yeah, the Royal Ranthambore one with Saif Ali Khan apparently got over 71 million impressions and 19 million video views. And a Morpheus campaign got over 3.3 million engagements. So they're definitely active and seem to be getting traction online.
Okay, clearly a multi-pronged approach to marketing and getting the product out there. So looking ahead, what's the management's vibe? What's the plan?
They sound pretty optimistic. They expect demand in the spirits industry to stay strong, especially, again, driven by premiumization.
The trend continues.
That's the bet. Their focus is on using their strong fundamentals, good brands, decent financials to drive growth that's both competitive and profitable.
Makes sense. Any specific priorities?
Yeah, they list a few. Consolidating the current portfolio, making sure those marketing investments are focused, expanding distribution further, and aiming for strong double-digit growth in that key prestige and above category.
Consistent message there.
Very. Plus, a continued emphasis on generating cash flow and creating long-term shareholder value. It's a pretty clear, focused strategy.
Okay. And just quickly, anything on the corporate governance side, how the company's run?
Just a couple of points noted. They've appointed a new secretarial auditor, TVA & Co. LLP, for 5 years, pending shareholder approval at the AGM.
Right.
And importantly, the main statutory auditors, Walker Chandiok & Co., LLP, gave the financial results an unmodified opinion.
Which basically means
It basically means the auditors didn't find any major problems or inconsistencies in the financial statements. A clean bill of health, essentially.
good to know. All right, so let's try and wrap this up. It really feels like Radico Khaitan turned in a very strong performance in Q4 and for the whole of FY25.
Absolutely. Record year by several measures.
Significant growth in revenue, significant growth in profit, particularly driven by those higher-priced premium and above brands.
Yeah, strategy seems to be delivering.
And their focus on, building brands, launching new things, targeted marketing, getting distribution right, it all seems to be clicking.
It does look that way.
Right.
The premiumization focus is very clear and seems central to their success and future plans.
Exactly. They've really leaned into that trend of consumers wanting better quality spirits, and it's reflected in these results. Their future plans, especially pushing even further into luxury and super premium whiskey. Well, it could be quite transformative.
It certainly could reshape their positioning.
Which brings us to a final thought for you listening. When you consider this clear trend in India towards more premium spirits and Radico Khaitan's very deliberate, aggressive push into that space even further into luxury and super premium, how might that really change the company's identity and market standing in the coming years? What kind of new customers could they potentially capture, but also what challenges might they face playing in those even higher, often more competitive tiers of the market? Definitely something to think about. Thanks for diving deep with us today.